Imagine waking up with no alarm, no meeting to rush to, no inbox waiting. You open your eyes slowly, stretch, and ask yourself one simple question: what do I actually want to do today? For 99% of human history, that wasn't a fantasy. That was just Tuesday. For roughly 300,000 years, that was the default human morning. And what followed looked absolutely nothing like your life right now. Here's a number that should disturb you: 90,000 hours. That's how much of your life you'll spend working. One third of every waking hour you'll ever have handed over to a job. But for the overwhelming majority of human existence, jobs simply didn't exist. No employer, no paycheck, no performance review, no hustle culture. So, what did people actually do all day? In 1963, archaeologist Richard Lee went to Botswana and studied the Zhuhuansi people, one of the last groups living in a way that closely mirrors pre-agricultural human life. His finding was shocking. Adults spent roughly 17 hours per week getting food. That's about 2.5 days. The rest of the time, completely theirs. And this wasn't unique to one group. The Hadza in Tanzania, the Aceh in Paraguay, the Martu in Western Australia. Different continents, different languages, different environments. Same answer: 15 to 20 hours a week on survival. You probably work double that every single week. Now, maybe you're thinking, okay, but those are modern people living traditionally. Ancient humans must have struggled more, right? The bones say otherwise. When scientists compare skeletons of ancient hunter gatherers to early farmers, the story written in those bones is brutal. Farmers were shorter, their spines were damaged from repetitive bending, their teeth were rotting from grain heavy diets. They showed signs of chronic malnutrition. They died younger. Ancient hunter gatherers, taller, stronger, healthier joints, better teeth. Their bodies weren't beaten down by endless labor, because endless labor wasn't their life. But the most powerful evidence isn't in bones, it's in art. In 1994, explorers crawled into a cave in southern France called Chauvet Cave. On the walls, painted 30,000 years ago, were horses mid-gallop, lions with shaded fur, rhinos drawn with actual perspective. This wasn't survival. Nobody painted a mammoth to eat it. Someone went deep into a dark cave, lit a fire, and spent hours making something beautiful because they had hours to spend. In South Africa's Blombos Cave, 100,000-year-old shell beads, tiny holes drilled through seashells. The nearest ocean, 20 kilometers away. Someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to collect pretty shells, then carefully drilled holes in them just to wear them. In Germany, a 40,000-year-old bone flute, 5 precisely spaced finger holes carved from a vulture bone. Whoever made this understood pitch, understood melody, and had enough free time to master it. Across Africa, Europe, and Asia, the same pattern. Objects far more elaborate than survival required. Evidence of focused creative work with zero immediate practical value. This is what humans did with their free time. They made things. They made things beautiful. So let's actually walk through a day. You wake at dawn. Last night's fire is still going. Someone feeds it. Breakfast is casual. Leftovers from yesterday's hunt, maybe some berries, some roots. Nobody eats alone. People talk, make loose plans. Not because they're scheduled, because that's just what humans naturally do together. Mid-morning, maybe a small group heads out to hunt or gather, but not every day. If the hunt 2 days ago was good and food is stored, you stay. You work on a tool, sharpen a spear point, weave something, cure an animal hide. No clock watching, no supervisor. You work because being skilled matters, because craftsmanship earns respect, because making something well feels good in your hands and your chest. If there's a hunt, it's not the explosive sprint Hollywood shows you. Humans are persistence hunters. We follow an animal at a steady pace for hours until it overheats and collapses. We're the only species on Earth that can run and sweat simultaneously to cool ourselves. Every other animal has to stop. We don't. 3 to 6 hours, the animal is brought back. Everyone eats together. And then, by early afternoon, the productive part of the day is essentially finished. What comes next is what modern people genuinely struggle to comprehend. Nothing urgent, and somehow, everything meaningful. People rest. They sit in shade and talk, not about anything important. Children play nearby. Adults groom each other. fingers moving through hair, reinforcing bonds without words. Someone carves a small design into a piece of bone. Someone else naps with their back against a tree. Anthropologist Mel Connor documented that among the Zhuhoansi, adults spend roughly 6 hours a day in what he called pure social time, not working, not sleeping, just existing with other people. And this wasn't laziness. It was survival strategy. In a world with no money, no police, no legal contracts, your relationships were your safety net. If people genuinely liked you, they'd share food when your hunt failed. If they didn't, you were on your own. So you invested in those bonds deeply, consistently, every single day. Then the sun drops, the fire grows, and something shifts. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wisner analyzed hundreds of hours of recorded conversations from the Zhuhoansi, comparing daytime talk to nighttime talk around the fire. Daytime conversations? Practical. Who spotted animal tracks where? Which plants were ready? Complaints about someone not pulling their weight. But at night, 81% of conversations became stories. Creation myths. Tales of ancestors doing impossible things. Jokes that made the whole camp erupt. Stories of faraway places nobody had seen. Wisner's argument, this is where human culture was actually born. Gods, morality, the past, the future, the meaning of things. None of that gets discussed on an empty stomach. But around a fire, fed and safe, the human mind reaches for something bigger than today. And sleep itself was different. Historical records from pre-industrial Europe and controlled sleep studies from the 1990s confirm that before artificial light, humans didn't sleep in one long block the way you do. They slept in two phases. First sleep, about 4 hours, then a quiet wakeful period of an hour or two in total darkness, used for reflection, conversation, sometimes prayer. Then second sleep, another 4 hours. That 2 a.m. anxiety you feel, that racing mind at 3 a.m., that's not insomnia. That might just be your ancient rhythm knocking on the door. So here's the full picture of a human day, the original human day. 4 to 6 hours getting food or making things, 6 hours in genuine social connection, talking, laughing, storytelling, 8 hours sleeping in two natural phases, the rest sitting with the world, watching the sky, existing without having to justify it. Then, about 10,000 years ago, everything changed. Someone planted a seed and watched it grow. Agriculture felt like a breakthrough, and in some ways it was. You could feed more people from the same land. Populations grew. But here's the trap nobody saw coming. More people meant you needed more food. More food meant more farming. More farming meant more people. And within a few generations, you couldn't go back. There were too many mouths to feed any other way. You were locked in. And farming was brutal work. Plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, storing, defending crops from animals, defending crops from other humans. The skeletons tell the story without emotion. Early farmers worked harder, ate a narrower diet, and died younger than the people who came before them. But the population kept growing, and with more people came specialization. Tool makers, potters, soldiers, priests, merchants, tax collectors, and eventually jobs. The radical idea that your time belonged to someone else in exchange for the resources you needed to live. By the time humans built the first cities, the original human life was already a memory, replaced by schedules, obligations. The quiet understanding that you'd spend the majority of your waking hours working inside a system you were born into and never chose. Today, you work 90,000 hours. Your ancestors worked a fraction of that. You call waking up at 2 a.m. insomnia. They called it the quiet hours and used them. You chase success by standards no ancient human ever invented. Wealth, status, productivity, optimization. They woke up every morning already enough, already free, with nothing to prove and nowhere to be. They didn't dream of retiring into freedom someday. They were already living in it. You make art if you can carve out time after everything else. They made art because time was what they had most of. We haven't become a different species. We've just built a world so far from our nature that it takes a full 8-hour workday just to begin to see it. We didn't find a better way to live. We traded the original one for more people, more food, more things. And somewhere along the way, we forgot what we gave up. That's the life you were built for. The question is whether you ever get to live it.